Good afternoon and welcome to the January 8th, 2026 episode of Right Now. I'm Chris Reddy. I have in studio with me this afternoon my two co-hosts, Mike DeSonier and Curtis Ayler. We are going to start off by first extending a happy holidays to everyone. We've been off for the past 2 weeks. I hope that both of you had a fantastic holiday and happy New Year's to all of our listeners. I hope the same. Good holiday, Curtis?
A great holiday, even better now that we're back on the air.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mike, how was your holidays?
It was awesome. We spent it in the Smoky Mountains, and glad to be back here.
Yeah, I saw all kinds of pictures about you're shopping in the official Cabbage Patch Kids store.
I did. I went to the official Cabbage Patch. It's not a store. It is a hospital.
Really?
It's a hospital and a what do you call it? An adoption center. Yeah, I was there. I was there.
And there's a new addition to the DeSonia family now.
Yes. Yeah, I forget the name, but there is a new addition. Yeah.
Was that the purpose of the trip down there, to bring a new family member home?
No, it was just one of those things that
spontaneously happened.
Yeah, that the wife nostalgia, something kicked in about the '80s again, and we had to go see Cabbage Patch.
Yeah. So this is our first episode in 2026. I do want to remind all of our listeners that you can listen to our previous episodes from 2025 on WILI.com. Look under podcasts. You can also view us on YouTube by searching for Right Now. We are going to begin our 2026 programming with actually a special announcement from our co-host, Mike DeSonier. You have something to let us know about future programming coming up very soon, don't you?
Yes, actually, we're going to be going on the air starting Monday at 3 o'clock.
This Monday upcoming?
This upcoming Monday, 3 o'clock.
On 95.3 FM, WILI.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be unfiltered with Mike DeSoniers. Would you expect anything else?
Of course not.
But it's going to be all local issues. We're going to have local guests. It's going to be a great show. Hopefully it's going to be very informative.
Excellent.
So it should be fun.
This is something that you and I talked about months ago as we were first discussing a show on WILI, and I'm really glad that this is something that we are now extending on to more programming that provides content that is in line with our morals and our political views and the way we feel the direction of Eastern Connecticut should go. So I'm really glad that we are now expanding into other programming options. 2 days a week is great for us to be able to get some of this messaging out there.
Yeah, because there's a lot of information to get out, and people have got a lot of questions, and that's what we're here to get that information to them, and then hopefully we can make a change in
absolutely
the way things happen in Eastern Connecticut.
Yeah, absolutely. And to give our listeners a little preview for some of the 2026 programming for Right Now, I want to give you a little bit of information, a couple teasers here. I'll include you guys with some of this and have you kind of comment on a few of the things we're going to talk about. Clearly, 2026 is going to be our midterm election cycle. We have a lot of programming content that I'm planning for the next 10 months now until our election cycle begins for early voting in October. In addition to special guests and talking about the importance of some of the issues that are going to be up for discussion in this election cycle, among them affordability, safety, things like the Trust Act that we're going to talk about. In preparing some of this information and kind of some of the work that I was doing over the holiday break, did you hear that last year, and we're going to kind of get into this more when we do our section on the Trust Act and the kind of super sanctuary state that Connecticut has become. Were you aware that last June, and I want to say the date was probably around it was the middle of June, it was probably around like the 12th or so.
Okay.
One of the most wanted men from Ecuador was found as a fugitive hiding in Oxford, Connecticut.
Funny enough, I read the Hartford Courant almost every day. I watch lots of Channel 3. I don't remember that story.
Yes, so we'll get into this in detail when we talk about the Trust Act in this future episode. But these are the type of things that people need to be aware of, that, yes, we do want immigrants to come here. We do want the melting pot that America is.
Sure.
What we don't want is criminals. This is the most wanted man for murder in 2011 in Ecuador.
Wow.
hiding out under an alias 4 years in Connecticut.
For 4 years.
4 years. I'm not saying for 4 years. For years. I don't know how many years he was here for because he came into the country, apparently around 2016 or 2017, but had been in Connecticut for several years. I'll say
Wow.
that. But I'll provide further details on this, when we talk about that. But these are some of the topics that I do want to talk about in the next few months in our programming. Some of the other things we're going to talk about are going to be obviously some more about the housing bill because that's going to be coming up. We also have the beginning of the short legislative session for the state of Connecticut beginning in February.
It's a short year this year. Okay.
Yeah, this is the short year. We'll have a lot of, obviously, to talk about that and update our listeners on issues there. We're going to talk about fraud and waste because we kind of ended our programming in 2025 talking about some of the things that are starting to be uncovered in Minnesota. And I think that I was pretty correct a few weeks ago when I said that this looks like it's going to be reaching as high as like $9 billion, and sure enough, that's where the numbers are starting to show here.
It looks like it's tracking maybe even north of that. Yeah.
And we'll talk about some more of that, but here's a little teaser for some of the Connecticut fraud that
Not
I'm
here.
starting to uncover.
Okay.
Okay. We know that back in March of 2025, the federal government contacted the state of Connecticut and said, we want to see records for Medicaid enrollment in your Medicaid data. And Connecticut, along with 20 other blue states, said no.
Well,
Okay. We know that there is rampant fraud throughout the country that we're starting to see now. You're just now going to start uncovering California, which I think is going to be the absolute monster of the group. The estimates that I'm hearing are low end $76 billion in fraud in California. GAO report from 2024, which I had mentioned previously in some programming, the estimate for 2024 for federal level fraud, they were estimating around $521 billion.
Oh, no.
2025, we are on pace for over 10% of the federal budget, $7 trillion, 10% of that, $700 billion in fraud across the country. Taxpayers should be furious.
that's amazing.
And for states like Minnesota, where this was so rampant, so obvious, so flagrant, and for politicians to still be showing their face in public is insane to me. Like, how could this possibly happen? But we're going to get into that. Here's an example, and I want you guys to react to this one here. December 2025, a nonprofit, it's called New Opportunities.
Sounds great.
Okay, New Opportunities, Inc. I'll be sure to
I love opportunities. Go on.
New Opportunities Inc. used $2.8 million in Connecticut taxpayer money through grants meant for low-income household heating bills on its own operating expenses.
Oh, no.
Okay? The way this was found out was because they sent 3 checks totaling $2.8 million to Eversource to pay for natural gas for low-income household heating customers. Those checks bounced. Okay. Eventually, this nonprofit paid $1.2 million, but $1.6 is still unaccounted for.
Wow.
Now, over the scheme of the number of people in Connecticut, these sound like small amounts, but this stuff adds up, and it's just the tip of the iceberg that we're starting to see, and we're seeing this unfolding across the country. Here's the second one that I'm going to tease you on, and I'll dive into both of these in much greater detail when we talk about fraud in future episodes, but I'm teasing this stuff out for you here. Hartford-based nonprofit organization. This one, I'm definitely going to get your reaction to because this directly relates to some of the things that we've talked about in earlier episodes.
Okay.
Hartford-based nonprofit organization. This one is called the Nonprofit Accountability Group.
I love the sound of it.
Okay.
More accountability everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were founded in 2021.
Okay.
Now, according to websites, their social media and stuff like that, they have several focuses. One of them, and these focuses are across several initiatives as part of their nonprofit. One of them is the LGBTQIA2+ community.
Okay.
Another is housing justice. And the third one they list is art programs for children. So if you want to support what you feel are underrepresented groups, that's fine. Here's the issue that I have with this. $192,513 of ratepayer funds. Where does ratepayer come in? With your electric bill.
Yeah.
They are using your electric bill to pay $192,513 back to this nonprofit organization
For a good cause.
approved by Pura and collected under your public benefits charge in your Eversource bill. You have to come back and listen to the episode for me to explain how this was done and what service they provided to Pura that they think they should be able to recoup almost $200,000 from your electric bill.
You're going to leave us hanging.
I am going to leave you hanging because I want the listeners to come back. What do you think about that? Is this acceptable for us as Connecticut taxpayers, as Connecticut ratepayers in this case? Is this acceptable, Curtis?
It's just a common refrain, right? Like this public benefits charge that we see on our electric bills. A lot of people here in Willimantic that are listening right now, a lot of them are on natural gas. You're getting public benefits charges on that right now too. When we're in the top, what are we now? The second or the first most expensive electric bills in the country?
I think we're behind California, aren't we?
And Hawaii. That's the other one. We are third.
Okay, great. Hey.
Can we really count Hawaii, an island 2,000 miles off the coast?
When we're one of the most expensive states for electricity in the country, and then you're talking about 15-20% of your bill is just going completely unaccountable. You have no say in where that money goes. There's someone sitting in an office in Hartford that you've never elected, you've never met, you've probably even never heard their name, that gets to decide how they're going to spend 15 to 20% of your electric bill every month. As a consumer, that's literally crazy.
And it's hidden taxes, isn't it, Mike?
It is. I mean, it's just it's crazy because when you think about it, this is a private company working with the government of our state to fleece us through a necessity.
That's
I mean.
right.
Yeah.
It's absurd. It's something that nobody would ever think about. Nobody, you couldn't make this up in a fairy tale. This is just ridiculous.
If they wrote a scary story when you were a kid about this, you wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, this is like the biggest fiction. You would be laughed off the block. But this is our reality.
There's our public benefits charges from Pure and from Eversource. Truth being stranger than fiction.
Yeah, and again, these are issues that can be dealt with legislatively. And
Yes.
that's what the voter has to understand, is that we have control over this. We just have to put the right people into those positions to make those decisions that will allow Connecticut to become more affordable. Some of the other things that we're going to talk about in upcoming episodes of Right Now, in addition, are going to be the nonprofit industrial complex,
There we go.
the role of lobbyists in Connecticut, and how they can manipulate policy and even elections. And that ties into another episode that I'm going to tease a little bit here. We are going to do an episode specifically on the 2024 29th district election and the strange case of UConn and the same-day registrations.
Man, I wish. Hopefully, we can get a good
How does
guest
that
that has
sound?
some inside knowledge of that.
I've got to tell you,
You know anyone?
as something that's one of the things there, and I really, up until that election, I really did have a lot more faith in our system because the checks and balances, and a lot of people know in my family, someone works the elections in my family, and I know the checks and balances that they go through, and a member of the campaign had called us and said, "Hey, this is what's happening. Do you know anything?" And my first instinct, and the person that's in my family's instinct was, it's got to be a mistake. And we drove down to the polling place, to the town hall, and we couldn't believe it when we walked in. It was like, okay, am I being punked here?
Because you had seen for years and years about doing it right,
doing it the right way. While we do it in
you don't have it in your heart to spend all that time thinking about how it can get wormed around and
right,
done wrong. Yeah.
right. You just don't see that, and we had simple things. Well, can we see the ticket? Well, no. Well, why not? It got stolen. What do you mean it got stolen? It's right there. I don't even want to touch it. I just want to take a picture. No. So it was just it was
Well, we're gonna dive deep into this. So, Mike, you're gonna have to make a return to right now
Oh, okay.
for this episode. We'll plan it out. So, I promise you, listeners, we have a lot of great content coming up in the next few months. We have a few more minutes before our commercial break, and this is another. Well, actually, I have one last thing I do want to mention about our future programming.
Yeah, let's hear it.
How about we, in future episodes, take the opportunity to get a little bit of listener involvement and participation, and we open up our phone lines.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that sound something we're gonna
That would be great.
I wanted to make sure we had a couple of months on the air so people could hear us,
Yeah.
get our position, our point of view, and stuff like that. But I think that in future episodes, we definitely should have some opportunities where we open up the phone lines, take on some callers, have some civil discourse and debate on some of these issues. I think that's something that's very important with the kind of environment that we are experiencing right now politically. So that's something that I promised to listeners also. We will do that in future episodes.
Yeah, that's perfect because we've had great phone-in guests,
Yeah.
and our producer in the studio, Matt here, hi Matt, has done awesome fielding some calls with some people that have had some really interesting points. Yeah, getting them on the air. I think it's about time.
Okay,
yeah.
excellent. Very good. So before we take our first commercial break here, one of the things that we talked about quite a bit before our Christmas and holiday break was the housing bill. And I almost feel like this is worthy of kind of a segment of our show that might be like Chris's crystal ball. Okay? The reason I say that is in doing my homework for these episodes, I noticed that over the Christmas break, there was a appointee to Mayor Mamdani's.
Oh man, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah, you see how the crystal ball works?
Yeah.
So there was an appointee. Her name is Cia Weaver. Mm-hmm. And I want to get this right. She is the executive director of the Office to Protect Tenants in New York City.
Sounds great.
Okay. I'm not going to go a whole lot into her background because I only want to take just a minute, but give you some statements and to give you a view of what is literally on our doorstep. There's two components to what I want to bring up here. First is what she has to say, and then a law that was recently enacted within the city by the City Council of New York that gives you a view of exactly how crazy some of this progressive socialist ideas with housing is becoming. Okay? So first, this was a tweet from Cia Weaver. This is her account has since been scrubbed, of course.
Of course.
But 8/21/2019. So we're going back a few years. Okay? But not that distant future.
8/21/19. Man, where was I? doing a little better. That COVID thing set us all back.
Yeah, it was before that.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Okay, so most of us were doing pretty good, high on the hog. Okay.
She is an activist within housing justice in New York City. She's been doing that for several years. This tweet, she said, private property, including and kind of especially home ownership, is a weapon of white supremacy masquerading as wealth-building public policy.
Okay, so for the entire history of the Western world, the number one source of wealth and class ascension being your home and the value of your home completely goes out the window because the executive director for the Tenants of New York's advancement says so. Okay, great.
Do you want to hear the kicker
All right,
on this?
cool. Yeah, let's hear it.
Her mom lives in a $1.6 million mansion in Nashville, Tennessee.
Don't they always? Don't they always? I mean, you could.
Now, it goes even further than this. All right, there's a video that's, again, been taken down. This is crazy. I mean, I wish I could do it in the same kind of, like, whiny tone that she does it in.
Oh, it's amazing. Everybody that hasn't gotten on
But-
YouTube and watched this yet, please look it up after the show.
This is the statement. I think the reality is that for centuries we have really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good. And we're transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity. This will require that we think differently about this and what it will mean for families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one we currently have.
So many words to say so little.
Oh boy.
Okay. Isn't this amazing?
The crazy
and
straw with this
and
one.
you haven't brought it up yet. She's very concerned about housing being a tool for white supremacy. Do we know the racial or ethnic background of this person?
I don't want to comment because I don't know.
Okay.
And I would hate to do that.
Sheesh,
But she
I've
does
got
have
a
other-
feeling.
Yeah, but she
I-
does have
yes.
other statements that she's made. She also thinks that the government seizing private property is okay. She's called to impoverish the white middle class.
Okay. So she's full.
And-
This is full unapologetic communism we're talking about here.
Yeah, yeah.
Good for
And
her.
she's also called for the endorsement of a no more white men in office platform.
I could use a break. I'd be fine.
So this is a peek into the future of Connecticut if we continue to allow the trend to progress. Because this is right on our doorstep.
Well, yeah, it's not as far from your doorstep as you think.
You're right. You are right.
Because we just had someone come to a council meeting, a few council meetings ago, and say, we need to change the look of the town council. And is actually working for a voter drive on Saturday with this intent in our town.
No, that's
So-
like you said. So it's not that far
not
away. I mean, New York
far-fetched,
City is
yeah.
only a car trip away, but it's already at the doorstep around here. It's such. I mean, on the one hand, I really appreciate the honesty. You know, some of these people spend so much time hiding behind moderate sounding names, moderate sounding platforms, like all the nonprofits that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
The name of every one of these departments and nonprofits. How could you possibly oppose protecting tenants? Oh, of course I want to protect tenants.
Sure.
Uplifting and uprising and ascending are all these words that you're going to see on all these departments. But on the one hand, I appreciate the honesty. On the other hand, man, does it sound crazy when you just read it off that page, Chris.
Well, you have to see it. Go online. You can see it. I promise you can find it. All right. Now, here's the kicker, which ties into our housing bill. And this is something that's abbreviated in New York City, and this is approved by the city council at the end of 2025, and it's called COPA, C-O-P-A.
COPA.
Okay. It stands for Community Opportunity to Purchase Act.
Community opportunity for purchase.
Right.
Okay, great. Once again, sounds perfect.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
How could you disagree?
Here's the way this works. When you're in New York City, you decide I've had it. I'm going to sell my building, and I'm out of here. Okay?
Oh no.
Before,
Yeah.
you are allowed to place this publicly on the market for sale. First, you have to offer it to the city or a nonprofit organization, and they have 30 days to tell you whether or not they are interested. Okay?
Huh.
If you don't follow that, you are fined $30,000.
Okay, a 30-day right of first
Now,
refusal.
It gets better. No, well,
Okay.
It gets better.
Let's hear it.
Within that 30 days, they can say, yes, we're interested. They then have 120 days to actually make the offer and complete the transaction.
Oh no.
You can refuse that offer and then list it publicly, but here's where the real kicker comes in. You ready
Let's
for
hear
this?
it.
When you get an offer that you like and accept, first right kicks in, and here comes the city gets to match that offer and buy it from you for that matching price, or a nonprofit for that same deal. Talk about a way to kill a real estate market.
Well,
You could have these things tied up in offers, and it could be years that you were waiting to sell a house and get out of your situation.
I can't even express how easy it would be to weaponize this process.
Oh, God.
Just think of New York City. Think of the density, the number of tenants per building, the dollars per acre, the dollars per square foot of residential or commercial property in the city of New York, and then someone in some office in the New York City government decides that they want to gum up the works. Make it so your tenants know that you want to get out. They're going to stop paying. They're going to stop cooperating with you. They're going to stop acting in good faith. And here you are, 150 plus days out of just drowning
Yeah.
because the city of New York wants to
have an opportunity to bid on your property.
Opportunity, COPA, community opportunities for purchasing your stuff.
Yep.
Great. Okay.
All right, we're at the bottom of the hour. We will be back in a few minutes. This has been Right Now on WILI 95.3 FM, Willimantic. Welcome back to Right Now. I'm Chris Reddy. I have in studio with me today Mike DeSonia, Curtis Ayler. You can listen to our podcast of this episode afterwards on WILI.com, or you can view us on YouTube. Just give us a little bit of time to upload this, and you can see the whole video of our in-studio presentation of this episode at your leisure. We left off the first segment talking about some stuff with New York and housing and things like that. And I want to kind of change just a little bit. One thing that we talked about just before the holiday break with this fraud in Minnesota has had a pretty significant update that I want to mention, and it really goes to the idea about accountability in this regard. We've been hearing all these stories that are now really starting to break. The Nick Shirley videos that have been all over YouTube showing these places that clearly are not adequate daycare centers that have been absolutely pilfering millions of dollars from taxpayers in Minnesota. And the important thing to keep in mind is that Minnesota is a 50-50 state where 50% is state revenue, 50% is federal money that pays these programs. So we all are contributing to this. We are all victims of this fraud. We're seeing this is starting to happen around the country, but there has to be some accountability. Some of these people have to be held accountable. And we're starting to now hear that there is some evidence coming out about this culpability. When we talk about Minnesota and the governor, Tim Walz, the AG, Keith Ellison, I want to refer back to, and this is something that I found online, this is at a get-together that was with the leaders of the Somali community.
Okay.
Keith Ellison was present as the Attorney General, and the person who I'm going to read the quote from is now a convicted fraudster from this Minnesota debacle.
So that's the quote that you're going to read.
This is who I'm going to read. This is his quote, and at the time, this was before any of this fraud had happened. It says, "The only way that we can protect what we have is by inserting ourselves into the political arena, putting our votes where it needs to be, but most importantly, putting our dollars in the right place and supporting candidates that will fight to protect our interests." Keith Ellison says that's right. Right? He did take money, as Ilhan Omar did, and I'm sure other politicians in Minnesota did, and their justification for not being included in this is that they gave the money back. Okay? If this had never broken, if, God forbid, Tim Walz was our vice president, could you imagine that this all would have been covered up? We probably would have never seen this. This probably would still be going on
You're absolutely right.
right now. There's some complicity in these state governments that are making fraud so easy to occur. Like, there has to be some culpability here. Somebody has to be held accountable, and I think that's one thing that we really need to keep in mind here. And unfortunately, as our very first episode of this show started with a crazy tragedy, we have one that's surrounding us in Minnesota right now. And it's a difficult subject to talk about because we're seeing videos, but we don't have all the evidence. Nobody wants to jump to conclusions, and I think it is extremely irresponsible, derelict of duty, and even bordering the line of seditious for these politicians to be getting angry and to be spouting off the way that they are about this without allowing the authorities to do their job and come to the proper conclusions. We can all see the video. The video is everywhere. But I think it's a very dangerous situation that we are treading very close to because we have not seen this rhetoric that we've talked about over the past few months lighten up at all. And in fact, it looks quite the opposite.
Yeah,
And it's something we should talk about. So do you want to comment on that, Curtis? And we'll go over to Mike.
No, it just that's the perfect thing. It's just the strict and definitive rhetoric that's coming so strong out of one side in this debate to paint everyone like fascists, like totalitarians, absolute right and absolute wrong. It's childish, and so few people actually believe it. But the problem is, you make certain suggestible people truly believe what you're saying. The most susceptible, suggestible people are then going to go out on the street. They're going to be blocking police officers that are engaged in their responsibilities, doing their jobs lawfully, and they're going to be putting themselves in harm's way. It's a tragedy that a woman's dead, a mother is dead, and the heat on the rhetoric needs to get turned down, because this sort of thing needs to stop. It's awful.
Yeah.
I think we all agree that it is awful.
Yeah,
We need
any
to
loss
turn
of
down the
life
heat.
is any situation like that is, and it's affected now not only a family and the officer that's involved in this. I'm sure he didn't go to work saying, "This is what I want to do today."
No.
By any means. No one in that job wants to ever be in a situation where they have to pull their gun. But now it's also affecting the entire community out there. And it's because it can't be left alone, where we can find out what happened, have the authorities investigate, do their work. As soon as we start jumping to these conclusions, it is a dangerous situation for, as you're seeing now, the communities. I mean, we're on edge, just like with George Floyd, which happened only a few blocks from that location.
I did not know that.
Yeah, back
Awful.
in 2021. And you're just waiting. And it's the same type of rhetoric that we heard there. Well, protest, they need to let off steam and all this stuff. You burnt 1,500 businesses.
Wow.
Like, craziness. The precedent that I want people to think about on this, and any justifiable lethal action by a police officer, goes back to one particular case and ruling, which was the state of Tennessee versus Garner in 1985.
Okay.
And it dealt with justifiable use of deadly force. The thing that you have to keep in mind with that ruling by the Supreme Court, when it elevated all the way to the Supreme Court, was that it has to be looked at in the totality of the circumstances.
Okay.
You have to take the entire situation into it. One of the things that is very clear is that if a subject is fleeing and does not pose a threat to you, you can't fire on them.
Okay.
It was ruled as part of this that a car can be considered a weapon, and if that is being directed at you, the use of deadly force could be applied. But ruling after ruling in court cases across this nation have also said that it is not right for a jury to Monday morning quarterback a split-second decision made in a situation like this. They aren't going to overrule that. In situations where it's life and death, the way that you get out of that is by making good decisions and having properly trained for those type of situations. Any law enforcement officer is going to tell you that. It's a horrible situation. Nobody wants to be in it. But in those moments, when it's really important for you to do the right thing, you have to be clear-minded, and you have to also have some training to fall back onto. That officer, it is very clear that he was hit. He was hit by the front of that vehicle. That is an important thing for people to keep in mind. Like, it wasn't any question about it. He was struck by that vehicle. And in fact, they're saying that 6 months ago, he was struck and dragged by a car and had to have 33 stitches in his leg as a
That's
result
right.
of that
I
incident.
did hear that. This was not his first encounter with almost this exact same situation. Yeah.
And just for the fact that these numbers of incidents are up 1,300% in just the past year and a half.
Wow.
I mean, you take it all into perspective, and this stuff's happening. Now, you go back a few years to what the other side calls the insurrection and all this. The woman was shot outside of barred windows with bars on it. And they said, well, she shouldn't have been there. It was her own fault for protesting there. She deserved to be shot. And that was what the other side says.
January 6th protest.
Right.
Yep.
But now you turn around and this person who was clearly not in their right state of mind because of all the rhetoric and everything surrounding this, and they probably truly believed in this.
Oh, yeah, I got no
was
doubt,
going to
yeah.
drive a vehicle and kill a man. And in self-defense, he but the other side is like flipping that around to, the brutality of the police. It's, and we're in our politicians are doing this. They're putting this. They're planting this seed, and it's becoming very inhumane. It's a horrible. Humanity is like going away.
I'll give you the perfect example because just before I came here, I was home and I was preparing, and I was actually listening to Tim Walz in his press conference. I'll tell you what I think about him in just a minute, but he actually had the nerve to bring up an incident that happened today where he said that ICE agents entered and terrorized a school in the Minneapolis area. What actually happened was that the immigration officers went after somebody with a detainer who rammed one of their cars, then led them on a 5-mile chase, and his car finally broke down in a school zone, and that's where he was apprehended.
But it becomes
Right.
terrorizing
Little
in a
difference
school.
there in the story, yes.
Right,
Little
right.
difference. But there's spineless jellyfish Tim Walz
right
up there spouting this stuff.
And,
You mean metaphorically or
Oh, no, he
physically?
looks like
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, it works both
and
ways.
the thing
yeah.
is most people aren't going to read into it like you did, or they're not going to find out what happened. They're just
And
gonna,
nobody has the time
They
to
read,
read
they,
into all
they
this,
get that
yeah.
headline, and it fires them up even more, and they just keep getting fired up, and it's gonna get really bad before it gets good.
Oh, yeah.
Before it gets better, it's gonna get really
This-
bad.
This is the perfect segue into what I want to kind of deep dive into with you guys for the next few minutes before we finish up here at 4 o'clock. Just before, or actually just after our last episode, I went on to Hometown Threads with Keith.
There you go.
Right? His episode just before Christmas. And one of the things that I told him is that one of my book genres that I like more than anything else is military history. And I've read everything from Sun Tzu's Art of War all the way through Operations of Special Forces, where the plans about Operation Just Cause in Panama with Noriega. These are the things that I like to read about. One huge aspect to warfare is the psychological operations. And I'll tell you where this train of thought kind of started. It was about a little less than 2 years ago. And again, I was home doing my thing. It was a day where on the news, back to back, Hillary Clinton was calling people Nazis and fascists. And this is kind of when Ukraine was a little bit more of a headline. Very next segment, Putin's calling Ukrainians Nazis and fascists and all this stuff. And I'm like, why are these two dramatically different people have the same exact rhetoric? This kind of gets you into the idea that, well, we have obviously a mainstream media that is very biased. We have psychological operations that are clearly now being implemented on us. And I'll describe how this kind of happens. In the idea of psychological operations, after you identify your target, and when you're trying to manipulate someone's beliefs and opinions, you're not trying to change ideology.
Okay.
You're trying to affect emotion because that's the stronger pull and the easier way to manipulate somebody. Capitalizing on this emotion is the goal, and it's not ideological polarization like we just mentioned, but this affective polarization. It's the feelings and emotions that you simply don't like the other group that's the target
Okay.
because you don't agree with their beliefs. You don't trust the other side to do the moral and righteous thing. The end result, once political division becomes extreme and overrides our democratic norms and creates legislative gridlock, we see that everywhere in our government, and erodes our shared reality and finally like society begins to break down. That's called pernicious polarization, and that's the ultimate end goal: is creating this chaos, stirring up resentment, and polarizing us against each other. Right? The way that's kind of the group idea of this.
Okay.
The way that you target the individual is through three things. The first is to isolate the person. Anyone who doesn't agree with the group's narrative is to be cut off. We've heard this with groups across underrepresented groups. If you don't agree with my beliefs, we can't talk to the family members anymore. If you're a Republican and you're a Democrat, we can't have Thanksgiving together anymore. You cut off family, you cut off friends, you isolate this person, any support system that they have.
Okay.
You create the echo chamber. We've all heard this. The environment where all you're hearing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is one point of view. No other ideas, nothing else is considered. That's all you have. Social media algorithms are designed to push that. The more you like, the more you're stepping down that rabbit hole. The more you dislike, it feeds you somewhere else. Right?
Okay.
It's very... The mainstream media is also complicit in this, and it provides a platform for incredibly disingenuous people who have nothing to do with any of us as regular middle-class Americans to tell us how to feel. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're inciting this rhetoric. The third part is the one that's most complex, and this is something that's called tribal script. This is exploiting a population's tendency to form groups. We always, ever since the beginning of humanity, we've collected in groups. First it was small tribes, became civilizations, now countries. With tribal script, this forming of member groups is the way that you kind of manipulate behaviors and emotions. And there's 6 different ways that you try this, and I'll go through them very quickly. The first one is creating in and out groups. Okay. There's a group that fits the model, and
Everyone else.
everyone has the beliefs, and then there's everyone else.
Okay.
Second is you leverage identity. You exploit the in-group's attachment to each other and the desire for that social acceptance that's part of the tribal script. And the group is naturally going to gravitate towards those favorable messages that validate their beliefs. The third thing you're going to do is spread disinformation. Tribal scripts rely on carefully scripted and crafted lies that are plausible, some element are true, but then there's a little twist that's there to make you hostile and suspicious of the other group. Okay? The fourth thing is amplifying the polarization. This is leveraging that echo chamber effect to try and silence any dissent, to further isolate those group members that you're trying to change their emotions of. And this is going to make individuals, this is specifically, this amplifying of the polarization, is what's going to make individuals more likely to accept extreme positions.
Okay.
Okay? That's the dehumanizing. What's the worst thing you can call somebody? A Nazi. You know, like they're going for these terms that specifically are targeting a person for dehumanization. You're trying to make this someone who no one wants to associate with. Nobody likes, nobody wants to be like that. The fifth thing is generating discord. This is when the tribal script is used to fuel discontent among the two groups and weaken that cohesion of the target group. And this is really what the mainstream media is trying to do. They're trying to make us very polar opposites. Everything has to be this way or that way, nothing in between. We're not going to be able to, tolerate each other. And that's the final one, which is this mobilizing action. This is creating that existential struggle between good and evil. The intent is to incite that aggression, mobilize the in-group population to act against that out-group, and oftentimes it is with the mindset that the ends, regardless of how severe, justify the means. That's where we are right now. You can see that virtually every single step in a psychological operation has been completed on us. Some people are believing it, some people aren't. You could say it, but this is very clearly something that people in our country and our government profits from. last year in Pew Research from July 2025 clearly says that when it comes down to voting either Republican or Democrat, we're 46% Republican, 45% Democrat right now in this country. When in all actuality, if we could lay all that aside, 90% of us could agree on so many things that we could have truly revolutionary change around here.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? What do you think?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I hear this. I hear this from Mike as well, to his credit, that we can talk about whether or not we identify more with a Hillary Clinton or a Donald Trump, or I guess I could think of someone who might identify with a Mike Waltz. But when it all comes down to it, those people, no matter what you think their politics are and how you align with them, those people have less in common with you and me than as different of a politically oriented person who is my neighbor could possibly be. I have more in common with a neighbor that has the complete polar opposite politics that I could possibly imagine for myself than I ever will with a Ned Lamont, a Donald Trump, a Tim Waltz, a Hillary Clinton. It's easy to forget in this kind of discourse, in this kind of heated rhetoric that we're just bathing in every day. But you really hit the nail on the head, and that's important for us all to remember. So thank you.
Ready for some psychological operations, Mike?
It's getting there, you know. But what you're saying is true, and I see it all the time, you know, going to customers' houses, and I walk in and you see certain bumper stickers and this and that, and you're like,
well, first you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, sometimes you say uh-oh, and then you my employee will say, uh-oh, this isn't gonna be good. But when you get in there and you start talking, and you realize that you have a lot in common.
Absolutely.
And you can have really good conversation, and you just, all of a sudden you can almost become friends. But then, you realize, oh, wait a minute, you're on that side, you're on that side.
Right,
it's
yeah.
like
the wrong color bumper sticker.
So it's true. It's all psychological.
And that is why we need a change in leadership in this country. We need leaders who are standing up and saying the right thing and not the wrong thing, which is what we are seeing more and more often these days. Yeah. It is right here in Connecticut with our own representatives. You're hearing Chris Murphy getting on the air all the time now saying completely ridiculous things. Yeah. This is truly something that, as a society and as a nation, we need to look in at ourselves and really understand that change comes from us truly evaluating what is important in our elected officials.
Right. And if you want to make change, remember, we've got a caucus on the 13th, which is Tuesday, 6:30 at the VFW.
That's at the VFW, not the French.
At the VFW. 6:30 for our caucus.
Yeah, check the newspapers. You'll see listings for all of the notices for town committee memberships coming up within the next week. This has been Right Now on WILI 95.3 FM. Willimantic.